Hello guys, welcome back to Archive Ryzen. In this video, I'd like to talk about CHENXING JADE's DPS, her weapon comparison, and her logistic talent priority. The weapon I'm gonna compare is CHENXING's signature weapon Skybreaker and CHENXING's free-to-play weapon Hidden Hero. CHENXING JADE's stat I use for this calculation is Manifestation 2 stat. The weapon stat for this comparison is Tier 2 Skybreaker, Tier 1 Skybreaker, and Tier 5 Hidden Hero, while the logistic talent has 14% attack percent talent and 11.x% electric elemental damage talent. First of all, I like to give a special award for CHENXING's signature weapon because this weapon has the best translation ever. As you can see, in English it says that this weapon can provide electric damage buff, attack percent buff, ballistic damage buff, and some damage deal. In summary, this weapon doesn't provide damage retrieve or damage taken debuff at all. All the debuff are generic buff, which is very common and can lead to high diminishing return. Meanwhile, in reality, all of these numbers almost make me go bald because the number I get doesn't match with the actual damage at all. Fortunately, Google Translate can translate better than this. If you translate from Mandarin, you will find out that this weapon actually can provide electric damage buff, attack percent, damage retrieve or damage taken debuff, and ultimate skill damage buff. So it turns out, the buff that this weapon doesn't provide is ballistic damage instead. The good thing is, both of the signature weapon and free-to-play weapon buff doesn't have any different complicated triggering mechanism, therefore, both weapons can be used in the same rotation without worrying about their buff. The best rotation is to accumulate as much embedded arrow as needed first, and then nuke it with ultimate skill in a single use. A single enemy can hold up to 50 embedded arrows, but if you only need 6 arrows to complete the battle, then just do so. Don't ever over-accumulate it in order to save time. CHENXING's ultimate skill damage per embedded arrow is the same, no matter how many embedded arrows the enemy has. Therefore, if you are fighting in a long battle, just take your time to accumulating the embedded arrow until it reaches the necessary amount to defeat the boss. For example, here are two different rotations. One is accumulating until it reaches 24 arrows, then nuke it with a single use of ultimate skill, while the other one is to use ultimate skill every 8 embedded arrow until there is a total 24 embedded arrows are accumulated. Is the damage on both rotations are the same? Yes, it is. Here is the ultimate skill damage with 24 embedded arrows is this much, while here is the ultimate skill damage with 8 embedded arrows, so the total ultimate skill damage on both sides is the same. But how about the time needed to perform both rotations? No, it's not the same. Because every time you use ultimate skill means that you will sacrifice approximately 1.1 seconds to cast the skill, so the more you use the ultimate skill, the more time you waste to casting the skill. Therefore, don't ever use the ultimate skill too early unless you are being forced to do so. For example, when the embedded arrow stuck in Moxie Shadow's cabinet, when the cabinet duration ends, it can also remove all the embedded arrow on it. Therefore, you need to use the ultimate skill early before the cabinet duration runs out. Some bosses also have special mating dance that allow them to remove the embedded arrows, which can also force you to use the ultimate skill before they start dancing. Those are the examples of special conditions that can force you to use the ultimate skill more than once in a battle. Using the ultimate skill early to trigger the boss' invulnerable phase is also a crucial move. Lastly, the simplest but important thing of CHENXING's rotation you need to keep in mind is always start your battle by using the standard skill first, so you can fully trigger her logistic buff, weapon buff, and obtain these 3 quick charge arrows, then followed by holding down the attack button to quickly fire these 3 quick charge arrows. You don't need to release the button, just hold it and she will automatically fire 3 of the arrows very quick, and then repeat the rotation. I guess that's all about the CHENXING's rotation. The next thing I want to say is CHENXING's skill is very unique. because her standard skill and ultimate skill damage can be affected with both skill damage buff and ballistic damage buff, which is very new that allow her to pair up with either skill buffer support operative or ballistic buffer support operative. So her standard skill and ultimate skill can be improved with both kind of buff, while her charged arrow is count as ballistic damage only, and her support skill is count as skill damage only. Here is CHENXING's total DPS. While there is a slight difference between 24 embedded arrow sustained DPS and 50 embedded arrow sustained DPS, that is because the ultimate skill casting time. The higher the total damage you build up before activating the ultimate skill, the less the 1.1 second casting time will matter in the total damage calculation. But you can ignore this because the difference is very small. And for the weapon comparison, Tier 1 signature weapon can perform 24% better than the free-to-play weapon, while the Tier 2 signature weapon can perform 28% better than Tier 1 signature weapon. Pretty low, right? What will make the difference probably will be the diminishing return later after she pair up with Yao Night Glow. As you can see, signature weapon has the potential for a high diminishing return in attack percent. As for the Tier 2 signature weapon, also include a ballistic damage buff. Meanwhile, for free-to-play weapon is the crit damage and ballistic damage buff. So it will depend on which buff Yao can provide. If Yao can provide a massive attack percent buff, then the buff improvement will diminish on signature weapon and decrease the percentage gap even more. But if Yao can provide a massive crit damage buff, then the free-to-play weapon will have high diminishing return and increase the percentage gap. But if you want to focus on the prison, then yeah, you can cope with the free-to-play weapon if you don't like to compete in neural simulation. As you can see, at the same manifestation, even with a free-to-play weapon, she can already produce pretty high solo DPS compared to other operative with Tier 1 signature weapon, while if she used Tier 1 signature weapon, her solo DPS will be insane. Not to mention that Yao Night Glow will be her exclusive support operative, then yeah, her performance will improve even further. So the conclusion is, her signature weapon Tier 2 Skybreaker can provide 28% improvement than Tier 1 Skybreaker, meanwhile Tier 1 Skybreaker can provide 24% improvement than Tier 5 Hidden Hero. Therefore, we can conclude that her signature weapon can provide high improvement, but not very high unlike the usual 30% improvement. However, if you need a reason to pull her signature weapon, there is plenty of it. Because CHENXING can produce very high DPS that might surpass a lot of current top tier main DPS. Second, because she is a very versatile operative that can deal a massive damage to a boss and can clean up weak mobs faster than any existing operative. Third, because she is a crit damage queen that can easily deal critical damage from her charged arrow, standard skill and ultimate skill, she can deal with many kind of bosses, whether it bosses without shield, with shield, boss who like to hide their weak spot, and even has the potential to deal with boss that has fortified part due to her ultimate skill damage can ignore fortified part. Her standard skill and ultimate skill is count as hybrid damage, which allow her to pair up with any kind of support operative, but ballistic buffer is more recommended due to her fully charged shot is count as ballistic damage. Lastly, she is a very easy to use operative due to her bow has tracking ability every time she uses her standard skill. Therefore, you probably will use her oftenly on any gameplay, which make her very worth investing. For the Logistic talent priority, it looks like this. Crit damage amplifier talent is the highest priority for signature weapon user, while attack percent is the highest priority for free-to-play weapon user. And alignment index has the lowest priority, so just focus on getting attack percent and crit damage amplifier for the best performance. For the third talent is electric damage. I think that's all from me. I will upload the new videos that explain about her skill, manifestation, team compilation, and recommended boss. Please stay tuned. Thank you for watching. See you next time. Cheers.